Hey everyone, and welcome back to OntarioCryptids. I hope you all are having a great week. Just some pre-warning that today's episode will include coarse language. Now, we're all adults here, right? Today I have two unusual stories to share with you all. The first one takes us to Texas, where a family has various experiences on their property. And the second one takes us to California on a weekend hiking and camping trip. Now, I'm always looking for great stories to be shared on this channel. So if you have a story that you would like to share in a safe environment, then forward your encounter stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. Now go grab yourself a beverage and get cozy on the couch or chair and sit back and relax. This first story takes place in Brazoria County, Texas. Obviously, for personal reasons, we're not going to give up the exact location or the closest city because this has been occurring over time on someone's private property. So, here we go, guys. Just before we get started, I'm just going to say that we have several accounts here. So, this may be a little long, but I'm sure you guys are going to enjoy it either way. The property I grew up on is super active with all kinds of different things. My grandma always told us that if you don't acknowledge them and leave them alone, then they will leave you alone. I had a friend living with me in my early 20s, and he liked to sit out in his car and chain smoke while he talked to his girlfriend in another state. He had explained seeing a transparent figure walking past his car one night. He came in super freaked out, grabbed everything he could fit in his and his sister's cars, and moved out that night. All I could offer him was the advice my grandma gave us growing up. I felt bad because he just paid rent, so when I offered him to give the rent back, he was like, "Nah, man, that's cool, keep it. I'm never going to be coming back here again." I still see him around here and there, and he brings it up when we get on the subject of creepy stories or paranormal stuff. Personally, I've not seen anything like that, but I've seen other things here firsthand. And I've had other guests, people have visual auditory experiences too. Okay, just to make it abundantly clear how bad he was freaked out by this thing, he called his sister to bring a floodlight and loaded his car with an AR strapped on. He left a bunch of stuff here and just split. I grew up seeing shadow people, white shadow people too. When Slender Man got popular, I immediately thought of some of the things I have seen here. There was some sort of entity that would harass the little girl who lived here. Nothing horribly obscene or anything, but my sister used to complain about a figure that would walk around her bed at night and say mean stuff to her. This thing would walk back and forth and call her string bean, an ugly little ginger bitch. By the way, after my sister was telling me this all upset and shit, I actually laid off teasing her about being ginger for a couple of years. It made me feel really bad. Anyways, she said she could never see its face or anything, but its outline was like the Grinch from the old Christmas movie. She'd always complain about it, and my older cousin, also female, chimed in while she was talking to me about it and said she had the same thing happen to her when she would stay here. They both agreed that it lived in a hole in the air between two oak trees that just refused to grow, an area my sister refused to play in. Those oak trees have been the same size since I was probably 5 years old, and now I'm 33. Still the same size. Keep those trees in mind. It's going to get a little weird about these trees. So shortly after my friend moved out, about a year later, my girlfriend and her daughter moved in. After about 6 months, her daughter started complaining about the same thing. She was scared to tell us at first. She would come in and wake us up, and we figured it was just her being scared of the dark. She was around 6 years old at the time. One morning, while we were getting her ready for school, she started quietly telling her mom about it. I could tell she was embarrassed and didn't want to talk about it. I was making coffee, and it stopped me dead in my tracks. I stopped and squatted down to talk to her and smile to try to ease her worry and got her talking a little bit more. She straightened up and called it the Grinch, like that was its name. She said it just walked around her bed saying mean stuff to her, never touching her or anything. I asked her, what kind of mean stuff? And she said, he walks back and forth and he says bad words and calls me fat piggy and dumb little girl and other words I'm not supposed to say. It freaked me out super bad. I started texting my sister about it, and I would have contacted my cousin too, but she is estranged from most of the family at this point. So my sister and I talked about it. I put up some crosses in the house. I put up some Norse protection runes, salt at the doors, and saged the house. It apparently subsided after that. So one or all of those worked. I was walking her to the bus stop for school a couple of months later, and she pointed at the area between the 2 oak trees that won't grow and said, "That's where that stupid Grinch lives. Ha! Can't get me anymore, stupid Grinch." And then she threw a rock at the trees. It was pretty funny, but I got concerned again and started asking her about it. She said she was fine and that she hadn't seen him in a long time. I'm assuming since I took some precautions and used warding of various types. So I asked what she meant by him living between the trees. She told me he lives in the air between them, like when we watch Stargate. I was trying to get more answers before the bus came, and I asked her how she knew that and if she could see him right now. She looked back at the trees and said, no, he's not there right now. He only comes out at night because the sun makes him invisible. So now I ask if I could see him if I tried. She says, no, only girls can see him and you're a boy, so you're not supposed to see him. And that's when the bus came. And we kind of dropped it after that. But ever since then, I've got a weird, unexplainable knocking on my windows, particularly when I'm in the shower. My girlfriend at the time, the girl's mom, and I had split up several years ago, and I still get the window knocking and weird noises. I'm used to it now because that's just life here. It's always been weird as hell. I saw a green man's face once when I was a kid. Weird piece of property we've got here. LOL. So for further reference, my girlfriend's daughters never met my cousin and never talked to my sister about stuff like that. So it's not like the idea was planted in her head by them or anything. Later on, when I was talking to my sister about it, she told me that maybe it's because she's getting older, but as time goes on, she has forgotten more and more about it. She said she doesn't even remember it having the outline of the Grinch anymore. She remembers calling it that and knowing that it looked like the Grinch before, but doesn't remember the outline. She used to be able to go into details about it, but now all she vividly remembers is the ginger bitch part. And maybe that's due to growing up, adulting and prioritizing memories, but she's 35 and I'm 33. I remember these conversations vividly because it freaked me out so bad. Okay, so here's another one because it's also been around since I was a kid. There is a tall white one that my grandma and grandpa have seen, but I don't think anyone else has. We live on a few acres in a rural area, so we've got all kinds of wildlife here. My grandma calls him the hog herder. He chases off the hogs, and apparently she's seen him do it. So did my grandpa, but I can't really ask him about it now on the account of him being diagnosed with being dead for like 10 years. It's okay. We would have laughed at that. We've all got a pretty dark sense of humor in my family. It causes problems socially at times, if I'm being honest. My grandpa mentioned it once, and that was it. He said, "I don't know what it was, but it keeps the hogs out of my garden so it can stay without paying rent." And that was it. That's all he said. My grandma has her white specter type buddy that runs hogs off the property when she can't get to her gun. She likes that one, I suppose. Now, before anyone is thinking we're pagans or Satanists or something weird like that, we're not. I was raised by my grandparents and they were both Mormons. Mormons don't typically believe in specters, spirits, or spooks in the same sense as Catholics do. Most Mormons are of the mind that these things are metaphorical and not actual things that can mess with reality. But my family is a bit different in that aspect. Okay, so this is the last story of the day. This one takes place on October 2021, and it takes place in San Bernardino National Forest in California while hiking along the Skyline Ridge. All right, so I totally understand if no one believes this because we are still unsure of what the F happened. But we sat down and came to a consensus on the events and all agreed we witnessed this same thing. Me and my 3 buddies were hiking Thursday, Friday in San Bernardino National Forest on various different trails, mostly the known ones and mostly during the day. Friday, we were making our way to Clark's Summit. As we were walking, one by one, we noticed that we were veering off the trail. I asked my friend in front of me why he was going off the trail, and he asked our friend who was in front of him the same thing. The friend in the front told us, "I can hear a woman talking. You guys don't hear that?" We didn't hear anything. We tried to convince her to leave it be because it was already kind of getting dark, and we were so close to where we wanted to set up camp on the trail. The friend in the front is female and insisted that what she heard sounded like a female calling for help and that she sounded really close. So I think she felt inclined to investigate a possible female in distress while we were totally okay with going about our business. Okay, I get a bit spooked now because she's absolutely serious and we absolutely could not hear whatever she was hearing. Here's where it got weird. We only ventured off the trail about 300 to 400 meters, yet at one point we were completely lost. We didn't have any fancy gear or GPS stuff because we've never needed it. But we've been on this trail enough to know we hadn't gone far, yet we couldn't find the trail in any direction after walking about 15 to 20 minutes. I started to feel weird, kind of dizzy, lightheaded, and when I mentioned this to the other 2, they felt weird as well. It was like something had changed the environment around us or moved us somehow to another location. I had no idea which way to go, and now it was fully dark. My female friend said the woman's voice said, "I'm over here, and please help me." She said it sounded like she was hurt or crying. So here we are, somehow lost after only walking about 20 minutes off a large trail because my friend is hearing voices. We decided to stop walking in any direction because the last thing we want to do at night is get even more lost. We had 2 tents and a sleeping bag in our packs, so we found a clearing and set up. We figured once the sun was out, we'd easily find our way back to the trail. Before we could even lay down to rest, I noticed a tree near us was moving as if something was climbing it. It was really getting dark, and I wear glasses, so I really struggled to see. So I called them over to see. I thought it was an animal at first, but it wasn't an animal. It wasn't anything. I could see the outline of what roughly looked like a human shape, but it was transparent, like completely see-through. The best way I can describe it is the way heat waves look on the pavement in the summer. You know, that wavy liquid effect. They saw it too. My male buddy said, "What the fuck are we looking at?" when he finally spotted it. They all said the same thing. It was transparent but still visible due to the foliage around it being displaced and moving as it moved. We all stood stone still, whispering theories back and forth as to what we thought we were seeing. I thought maybe it was some kind of optical illusion, but they both immediately jumped to aliens, of course. The thing just sat there perched on a large branch about 50 feet up. It's like it was watching us watch it. The other oddity is that after staring at this thing for about 10 minutes, we noticed all the normal forest sounds we heard prior had stopped completely. I mean, the only noise was us talking and the leaves around our feet. The hairs on my neck stood up, and I had goosebumps all over when I realized this, like something was truly wrong. After about 10 minutes of us standing there, whatever this thing was, it started to climb up the tree even more, until we could no longer see it at all. We approached the base of the tree slowly, and walked around in a circle with our necks craned up, trying to see this thing. It was too dark, and the trees were too close for us to see the top. We didn't hear it jump to another tree, so we assumed it was still up there. We were all too spooked, obviously, to camp right underneath whatever this was, so we gathered our shit and started walking towards the moon. I shit you not, about 5 minutes of walking, we were back on the trail. I literally dropped my bags and said, "What the fuck?" out loud. We all stood there confused, looking around, trying to confirm what we were seeing. My buddy likes to joke and said maybe we walked through some hallucinogenic spores and had imagined all of it. I highly doubt that, but whatever happened, it seemed kind of, I guess, predatory. Like it seemed like something was luring us or trying to confuse us. My friend still thinks that we were messing with her about not hearing the woman she claimed to hear. Was it that thing we saw imitating a woman? How did we get lost so close to the trail? This was easily the weirdest thing I have ever experienced in the wilderness. We still don't know or have a good theory as to what we saw. It may not have been an alien, but whatever it was humanoid, and it was 100% transparent, somehow, and able to climb a really large tree with ease without making much noise. I would love to hear any theories about what this may have been. Has anyone else seen anything like this in the woods? I feel I should mention that no drugs were consumed while on this trip. All right, there you have it, guys. 2 great stories, fascinating stories at that. I am lost for words. The last one reminds me a lot of the movie Predator, where they see the transparent figure. And the first story had the same thing, where a transparent figure walks in front of the car. Anyways, 2 fantastic stories, both taking place in totally different parts of the States. One of them in Texas and one of them in California. So I hope you guys enjoyed these stories today. Let me know if you've heard of similar stories or have experienced stories like this. And if you have, please send it to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. Again, guys, I apologize for the coarse language, but I did pre-warn you guys at the beginning that there was going to be coarse language in these 2 stories. I did find that it was warranted to tell the story as it was written. Anyways, guys, thank you for listening until the end. I truly appreciate it. Please hit that like button on your way out and smash that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. And again, have a fantastic weekend, and I hope to see you all next week right here on Ontario Cryptids.